everyone, and welcome back to our next statistics lesson. And in this lesson we are looking at cumulative frequency and how to draw an ogive. Okay, so the best way to explain these are by doing an example. Now, what is an ogive? It's basically a graph that represents cumulative frequency. So let's see how it is done. Now, before I read this example, there's a couple of old things I would want to revise with you. For example, frequency. Now, if we add all of these frequencies, we know what's the total of our sample. Now, we know that there's 100 vehicles in this example, but sometimes they don't tell you it's 100. So you can know it's 100 by just adding the frequency, because 3 of our values fall within 40, including the 40 there and not including 50. So 3 values are within 40 kilometers and 50 kilometers. We actually don't know what those values are because this is basically just a quick way to summarize data. Then there's 6 values within 50 and 60, 8 within 60 and 70, 15 within 70 and 80, and you got the picture, right? So basically, if I take 3 plus 6 plus 8 plus 15, we end up at 32, right? Okay, and now this is quite important because if we add all of these, we get an answer of 100 here at the bottom. Got it? Now, to get the medial class, we want to know, basically we take the 100 and we divide it by 2 because this is an even amount. So when we take 100 and we divide it by 2, we get 50, right? So we're looking at the 50th value and the 51st value because basically this is an even amount. Now, 3 plus 6 plus 8 plus 15 gives us 32. So if we plus the 22 that fall within that range, we get to 54. So we basically know that the 50th and the 51st number are in that class there, okay? So the medial class is this one where x is greater and equal to 80 and it's less than 90. Got it? Okay, so the median will be in there because the 50th value and the 51st value fall within 80 kilometers an hour and 90 kilometers per hour. And if we actually knew what they were, we could add the 2 values and divide it by 2 and we would have the median, right? But now we actually can calculate the medial class. So please remember, we work with the frequency to find the median class once we know how many data values were in our sample. Now, a cumulative frequency makes all of this a little bit easier because what we're going to do with cumulative frequency, we're going to start with this 3, okay? So we simply write here the 3, always the first one, and then it's 3 plus 6. So we end up with 9, okay? That will be our next one, will be a 9. So let's write that in. Then we take the 9 plus the next one, which gives us 17, okay? So 9 plus the next one gives us 17. 17 plus 15, and that gives us our new answer, which is 32. There we go. So now we go and we say 32 plus 22, and that gives us 54. Got it? And now we can simply say that it's 54 plus 26, and that gives us 80. So there we go. And then we get 80 plus 13, we get 93. 93 plus 6, that's 99. And 99 plus 1, it's 100. So can you see, with the cumulative frequency, that last one will actually also tell us how many numbers are in our sample. So a survey of traffic safety was carried out by measuring the speed of 100 vehicles traveling along a certain stretch of road. So 3 of those cars drove between 40 kilometers and 50 kilometers, and so on and so on. Okay, but this is just to show you how we set up the cumulative frequency column. We simply take the first frequency, we write it down, then that one plus the next one gives us the next one. 9 plus 8 is 17, 17 plus 15, 32, 32 plus 22, it's 54, and so on until we get to the 100. Okay, so important, and to know that you are correct, add up all your frequencies, get to 100. Then once you do the cumulative one, you will also get to 100, and then you know you are correct. Because make a mistake here and your ogive is not going to be correct. So let's see how we use this information to set up a graph representing our cumulative frequency, which we call an ogive. Now let's see how we are going to go about drawing an ogive, which is a graph representing cumulative frequency. Now there are some small details when we draw this, so pay careful attention. Now sometimes you have to set up your own set of axes here, right? Please remember that your y-axis represents your cumulative frequency. So this cumulative column here is represented on your y-axis. That's why we start at 3, we go all the way to 100, and you have to make sure that you get the intervals right. Now I work with intervals of 10, so basically the 3 and the 9 will fall in that little range there. You could also, if you have a lot of space on your paper, work with intervals of 5. Okay, now please remember that your x-axis represents your intervals. It will always represent your intervals. So basically the steps on our intervals is 10. So look very closely. You could also have done this 0, 10, 20, then 30, then 40, then 50. Please make sure that the spaces will be the same. But I just put in a gap here in my axis to show that I didn't include 10 and 20. Okay. Now, what do we do next? We have to go and plot these values in our cumulative column. Now please remember our cumulative frequency is our y values and our intervals is our x values. And we look at this last part of our intervals, not the first ones. Okay, I'll show you later what we do with that 40. But here we have 50 for our x value and 3 for our y value. Okay, so that's our coordinates, 50 and 3. So we go to the 50, which is our x value, and we go as high as 3, which is our y value, and we go plot that point. And I'll do this in my blue pen. So basically that will be as low as that. Okay, then our next one will be our 60, which is our x value, and 9. So we go to 60 and 9, which is just below the 10. So let's go and plot in that point, which will be around there. Okay, then we go to our next value, which is 70 and 17. So that's 70. 17 will be below 20, which will be just above that line there. So 70, and I'll go and plot that point in. And let's make it right there. Okay, great. Then we go to the next one, 80 and 32. So 80, we go up to 32, which is just higher than that. So let me put in that value. There we go. And then we go to the next one, which is 90 and 54. So basically at 90 we go as high as 54, which is almost between those two, so it will be around there. I just have to make sure that I get this right. You actually have a ruler that you can use to plot these points correctly, so it will be around there. And then we go to 100, which is 80, so all the way to 80 at the 100, so go up, and there we are in line with the 80, so it will be there. And then we have 110, which is 93, so just above the 90s, it will be around there at 110. So let me quickly plot that point, which will be right here, and there we go. And the next one will be 120 and 99, so in line with 120 and just below the 100, so basically on that line next to my table, there it is. And 130 will go all the way, that 130 to 100. So I'm going into my table a little bit, but that's okay. So it will be around here. And now what we need to do next is we need to connect these dots, okay? And try and do that with a steady hand so that it looks nice and beautiful. So there we go. All the way to there. I'll continue and around through those points we go. And there is our cumulative graph, okay? So which we call an ogive. Now, this is quite important, the next part, because the graph cannot just hang in the middle. Now, where does it go? Does it go to the origin? No, 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 no. And this is quite important that you remember this, because you lose marks if you don't do it. You go to the 50 and the 3, and then you go to the part that's part of that first interval, but the first number, which is 40. So this graph is going to be connected with the 40. Got it? And that is very important, and I'll do this in red so that you remember to do this. So what you do is you just connect it to the 40 like that. Okay, so that is our cumulative graph, and that's quite easy, isn't it? Now, what we want to do next is we want to determine the median, the upper quartile, and the lower quartile with the aid of this graph. Now, this is quite important because now we know that there's 100 cars that we measured, right? So we've got 100 different values, 100 different speeds. So what we do is to calculate the median, we want to take the 100 and we are going to divide it by 2, okay, which is going to give us 50. Then we go to the cumulative graph, okay, and we know that because this is an even amount, we're going to work with the 50 and the 51st value. But in case of this ogive, we just take the 100, we divide it by 2, we get to 50. Now what we do is we simply go from the 50 and we go all the way to the right where we are on our graph, and then we go down. So basically from the 50, see where we go, there it is, and then we go down and we end up there, and that gives us a value around 87 or 89 kilometers an hour. Okay, so I'll show you here with my black pen. So what we do is we go here from 50 and we just measure this with our ruler. You don't even have to draw this in, but I'm just doing it so that I can work correctly and show you where it comes from. So right there, and then we go straight down to see what that value is, and that is around there. So what, that's 89. So basically our median will be 89 kilometers an hour. So 89 kilometers an hour. Okay, brilliant. Now we want to go and we want to see what is the upper quartile and lower quartile. Now, to get the lower quartile, that means we are a quarter of the way through our data, right? So basically, we can either say 100 times a quarter, and that will give us 25, or we can just simply say the 50 divided by 2, and that is 25. So we go to 25 on our cumulative part of our graph, which is our y-axis, which is right in the middle of 20 and 30. We go to the right and we go down again, and I'll quickly show you with my black pen again. So here from 25, which is in the middle of the 30 and the 20, we go to the right, and I'm trying to go as straight as possible, and there we go. And then we go straight down and we end up with a value of 76. So our Q1 is equal to 76 kilometers an hour. There we go. And then our Q2, or our Q3, sorry, that's the upper quartile. The median is Q2. To get the upper quartile, we simply need to take the part that remains, 50 to 100, and get the middle of that, which will be 75, which is right there. And again, we simply draw these lines from this part, which is between the 70 and the 80. And we keep going to the right until we get to our graph. You can just simply use a ruler, and there we go. And then we go straight down and see what the value is on our x-axis, and that will be about 99 kilometers an hour. 99 kilometers an hour. Now I know what you say is that, what if you didn't draw it as accurately? Well, in the exams they give you like a range. You can get 2 lower or 2 higher, and so if you got 101, you will still get your marks. If you get 97, you will still get your marks. But it's so important that you know how to get to these values. Okay, now they ask you what percentage of motorists were speeding if the speed limit is 75 kilometers an hour. Okay, so basically the speed limit is 75 kilometers an hour. So it's just here, and then we go up. Okay, and I'll do this in red for you to show you how this can be answered. So 75 kilometers is our speed limit. So it's just to the left of this value. So we go up to there. And now I go to the left towards my y-axis, and I have to work quite straight here. So let me see if I can do this. And keep going, keep going. I hope I'm going straight, and there we go. Okay, so great. So basically, what does this mean? It means that anything above the 75, right? The cars are speeding. So how many cars were below it? If that's 21, well, 21 cars are below the 75 on the blue line, right? So anything above it. So from 21 to 100, and they want to know the percentage of motorists. So basically, that leaves us with 79, because 100 minus 21, that is 79. So 79 of the cars out of 100 were speeding. So what's the percentage? So basically, we take 79 divided by 100 times 100, and we will end up with 79% of the cars were actually speeding. Okay, so if you go and draw this accurately and you make your spaces equal and you go and try this at home, you will even get more accurate numbers than I did, because this was kind of a freehand, but I tried to keep my spaces as close as possible. But you can work with the ruler and see that your answers will just deviate with mine by around 2 lower or 2 higher if you work accurately. And that is all there is to it. So let's go and try one last example. Now here is the final example where we are going to interpret this ogive to answer the following questions. Now, how many learners are in the class? So basically we go to the highest point of our cumulative frequency graph, our ogive, and then we go to our y-axis where our cumulative frequency is, and you will see that it is 55. So basically there are 55 learners in this class. So 55 learners. Okay, there we go. Question 1 done. Easy, right? Now they ask you how many learners obtained more than 50%. So here are our percentages, and this is also our interval, so the percentages will be in the intervals, right? So how many learners obtained more than 50%? We go to 50%, we draw a line up, and then we go to the left. So we go up and then to the left, which is around 17. And I'll quickly show you here with my pen if I do it in blue. So we're gonna go up until we get to our graph, and then we're gonna go to the left towards the y-axis, and that is around 17 or 16. Okay, let's work with 17. So basically what we do is we know that there are 55 learners in the class, and there's 17 who got below 50, and if we take 55 minus 17, we get an answer of 38 learners who got more than 50%. Now, you can see that if that is 17, 17 is all the way there, so it's from there to this part, the lowest part of our ogive, right? So there's 17 learners who got below 50, and everything from there on is more than 50. So that means that if 17 learners got below 50, then 38 got above 50, and that's where our 55 learners also come from. So next one, what percentage of learners obtained less than 50%? Well, we just said 17 learners fall on this lower part, right? Because that is the point where we have 50% on our graph. This is our learners, so there's 17 of them that got below 50. So basically we go and we say 17 divided by the total learners in the class times 100, and then we just quickly do that calculation. So 17 divided by 55 times 100, and we will end up with 30.91% if we round it off to 2 decimals. There we go. Now for the final question, we want to determine Q1, Q2 and Q3, so the median, the lower quartile and the upper quartile. Now to calculate the median, and we want to do that first, we simply know that there's 55 learners in our sample and that's an uneven amount, and I'll do the calculation here at the bottom left. So we have 55 learners, okay, and we divide it by 2, we get 27.5. If we round it up, we are looking at the 28th value, okay. And where do we find the 28th value? Are we going to find it at the percentages or how many learners there were, right? On the y-axis. So we go to 28, which is around there, and then we go and draw in the line, and I'll do this in my blue pen as well. So we go all the way to the right, and there we go, and then we go from that point all the way down, and there we go. So I hope that is nice and straight. You can use your ruler once you draw this, but it looks like 55%. So the median is 55%. So I can say here that Q2 is equal to 55%. Got it? Now, how about Q1? Q1 is a quarter of the way through our sample, okay, and there's 55 learners in our sample, and Q1 is a quarter of the way through, so it's just 55 times 0.25 or times a quarter, which gives us 13.75. So we're looking at the 14th value, which is around there, okay? So I'll do that calculation also here at the bottom. So basically we have, and I'll do this in blue, so we have 55 times a quarter, and that equals to 13.75. So we're looking at the 14th value, and again the 14th value is just below the 15, and I'll do this one in my black pen. So we go from 14 there all the way to the right, there it is, and then we go all the way down, and that looks like 48%. So we can say that Q1 is equal to 48%. So now if we want to calculate our last question, which is our upper quartile, we know that the upper quartile is 75% through all our data. And remember, there's 55 learners, so the upper quartile will be 0.75 or 75% of 55. And I'll do this here in my black pen. So what we basically go and do is we take the 55, we multiply it with 0.75, and we get an answer of 41.25. We always round this up, so then we are looking at the 42nd value. Okay, so if we go to 42, that is around there, and then we go to the right, and then we go all the way down, and it looks like 62%. So I'm not going to draw this one in now. You can use your ruler if you tried this at home. So that basically means that our third or upper quartile is equal to 62%. And that is all three values. So we've got our median, which is 55%, our lower quartile 48%, and our upper quartile 62%. Okay, so keep practicing and work through this video. It's not that hard. Make sure you remember all the little details, and that this process can only be used if we are busy with the ogive to determine the median, the lower quartile and the upper quartile. We use for the median, we divide by 2 and we round it up. And remember, this works for uneven or even amount of data. And then for our Q1, which is our lower quartile, we just simply take our total of our sample times 0.25 or a quarter, and for the upper quartile we just multiply with 0.75, and then you just have to draw those lines from this one where it was 42 all the way to the right, and then we go down to find that upper quartile mark, and that was 62%. Okay, great. So I hope to see you again soon. Bye. This is your host Richard T, and thank you for joining us. Please visit our website mathsa.co.za for free guided exam tutorials.